Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Live with Ty. We got a special one for you today. Trust me on this. Joining us today is Jermaine Malcolm, founder of Student Athlete Company. And what it does, it pairs athletes with paid training and mentorship. And why I think this is such a cool and innovative episode, as well as the product and company started, is because athletes are struggling. Whether you like it or not, athletes are struggling when it comes to guidance, when it comes to career advice, and figuring out what is next when the jersey comes off. This guy built a company built around that so that athletes don't necessarily have to go through the same pain points that he had to go through on his journey. Again, it's going to be such an amazing episode. So if you haven't already, make sure you pause the video, hit that subscribe and like button. And once Jermaine jumps up, we're going to get right into it.
Live with Ty starts now.
Hey Jermaine, how are you?
Hi, how's it going? I'm good. How are you doing?
Jermaine, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the show. So happy to have you here. For people who might not know who you are, what do you do? What are you known for? And what brings you here today?
Yeah, so my name is Jermaine Malcolm, and I am the founder, owner of a Skills Gap Advocate. And we really have a small portfolio of companies. The primary thing that we do on a daily basis is we help entrepreneur support organizations support more entrepreneurs, and we've done that in a number of ways, whether it's program design or creating specific tools in order to support entrepreneurs. But there are a few other companies within that portfolio, but the one that we spend the most time on currently is the consultant of those ESOs.
I love that. I love that. For those of you listening, what he also forgot to mention is that he was a football player as well.
Right.
So there's this athletic grit, there's this athletic background that we're going to explore. Yeah. And actually, you are the first fellow Jamaican on the show. So that was amazing. And, I'm happy to be able to connect. Yeah. Where in Jamaica are you from?
Yes, I was born in Trelawney, grew up primarily in Mobay, in Montego Bay and Lickaput area. And so that was kind of my grounds. I would go back from Mount Salem. You familiar with Mount Salem?
A little bit, yeah. I wasn't born there. My family just hails from there, so.
I got you. We'll accept you.
Thank you.
We Montego Bay, St. James area, so Lilliput, Montego Bay, and then occasionally back in Falmouth, Trelawney. That's before I came to the U.S. in high school.
Got you. And when you were making that transition to the U.S., did you have football already kind of on your brain where this is what I want to do? You did not?
Yeah, no,
okay.
Not at all.
Tell me more about that then.
Yeah, so when I was the story I share quite a bit is that my grandfather would always emphasize education as the key thing, right? I got to get my education, got to get your education. In fact, he was speaking in Patois, said, Jermaine, you have to get your education, right? Nobody can take that from you. And so that was my primary mission when I came to the U.S. And so when I came to San Antonio, Texas, I wanted to get a scholarship to go to college. Didn't know how exactly I was going to do that, but I saw individuals were actually getting scholarships by playing sports. So started playing as many sports as I could, primarily basketball, running track. And then my sophomore year, a football coach came and said, hey, know what you're trying to do if you played a specific sport, if you try these things, I think you can get there. And so obviously he was telling me to play football, which I thought was crazy because we do not run into people in Jamaica.
No, you guys run past them.
Right, we run past them and turn left. That's right. Yeah, I trusted the process because that coach saw something in me. And fast forward a few years later, I had multiple scholarship offers and that opportunity to get that education that my grandfather always talked about through this vehicle of football.
So when you were making that decision coming into college, were you prepared for that differentiating factor that you were going to be a football player on campus that comes with a completely different walk of life rather than just being a regular college student?
No, I had no idea. That. I was just coming, I'm an island guy just coming in and just really appreciating everything that's coming to me. I was just having fun. I say a lot, I used to think that, especially high school, I thought high school was going to be like Saved by the Bell. I don't know if you know about that. You might be.
Yeah.
But completely culture shock, very different from what I grew up in. In fact, the college that I went to was Illinois State, which was very north of what I'm used to. And so the first time I saw snow was when I think went on my visit. But it was just completely different. But I was ready for that. It was pretty exciting to me to see that change. And so I was just exploring and going along with it.
What was some of your favorite parts from being a football player at, such a great school like that?
Yeah. So one, the opportunity to be with folks and like teammates, right? You know that
Yeah, so
experience.
many. Football players are massive. Like, you guys, what? Your roster size like 53 or
Oh
something,
no,
right?
we had like over 100. Yeah,
That's
we're over
crazy.
100. Yeah, you have 53 that are probably, yeah, you're talking about maybe the pros making
Yeah,
a
a
roster, but
hundred.
yeah, but over
That
100 on the college team and from all walks of life, different people from everywhere. And so that atmosphere was really interesting. Met some really cool people. Some of my best friends now or teammates that I had during that time. And so that was one of my favorite things, just the camaraderie of the individuals, but also being able to go through stuff together, hard things together. That was
yeah,
also another key component. And obviously all the different things that you learn with playing football. Coaches often refer to football as a game of life, but I think many sports are the same, where you have to develop grit. You have to go through a number of things in order to become better and be humbled and continue to learn. And so football gave me that experience in a most physical way, and so I really, really
yeah.
appreciated that.
When something that a lot of athletes right now that they're not able to realize, and I know this was also in my journey playing soccer. You just said it right then and there. There's so many key characteristics that you're developing while you're going through
Hmm.
hard moments. Do you think it's possible for current student athletes right now to reflect on that while they're going through the hard moments, or is it not really a real thing that athletes can be doing?
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of speak a lot on that. So one of the companies that's under our portfolio is studentathlete.co, and we
Hmm.
get a chance to connect with universities and speak to student athletes and do workshops and so forth. And one of the things that we talk about usually is that period of understanding that one, what you're experiencing right now is pretty rare, in that sense that you get to have this development opportunity as a young adult, but this student athlete title that you have, it's going to expire, and all the
Correct.
resources and all the capabilities, all the things that you have right now that you can take advantage of, it's going to come to an end. And so what we hope to do is just help you to think about that as soon as possible, because if you don't, it's just going to be harder when you transition, right? But right now it's very difficult for student athletes to see those things, and it's not until you have maybe a mentor that's consistently in your corner, or you have a different perspective. Sometimes I think about the injury perspective, right? Sometimes whether it's your junior or senior year, that you get an injury that allows you to start thinking about things differently, and then start seeing some of
Yeah.
the resources and things that are available to you, or some of the lessons that you're learning and how they might help you to transition. But it's oftentimes it takes that perspective, someone else, or maybe something that happens in order for you to see it. But it's very difficult for current student athletes to see that.
So when you were going through your own journey, when you realized, hey, football might not be the end all be all for yourself, right? What were some of the pain points that you had to go through that someone listening can avoid by hearing your story?
Yeah. So again, another thing I talk about is that one, just hearing that one day you're not going to be done with your sport, but your sport's going to be done with you, right?
Mm,
Taking that acknowledgement and just seeing it. It doesn't have to be this battle or this fight that's ongoing. You just have to realize that, hey, this is something that's going to happen. And in fact, the longer that you stay with your sport, the harder it is often to transition. My
correct.
wife is a former pro athlete and spent 10 years playing professionally, but I've seen other athletes the same. When they transition, it's very difficult, especially if you've been in a sport for such a long time. And so it's critical for you to kind of think about other things while you're doing that, or while you're playing that sport, so that you can be better.
And when you're going through your own process, I think there is a correlation between student athletes and having definitely the entrepreneur tendencies. This wasn't the first business that you started, right? You'd started a couple, and you'd had some massive success, but also some major pitfalls as well. So when it comes in that journey as well, I think that's super important. From a holistic perspective, you have an ability to get up again every single time, right? When you were starting your journey once your college years was over, when did you realize that some of those core values that are ingrained within yourself are attributed to your time at Illinois?
Yeah, so what I've learned, especially in this entrepreneurial journey, is that those that actually stick it out, right, or even make pivots along the way, but if you don't give up, you will find success, right? And that's one of just the biggest insights that's there. If you don't give up, you actually will make it. You make something of it, because most people, once they start to have any type of obstacle or barriers, then they leave what they're doing or they stop what they're doing. And with football or with sports in general, that's what you're hearing every day, right? You're hearing through your
Yeah.
coaches or through your teammates, like, "Hey, don't give up, don't let out, continue and see this through." And through doing that, or through that exercise, through that journey, you've seen success. When you don't give up, you continue to go through that play. The average, I think, play for football is every 4 seconds, and so within that time, there's difficulty that's happening, but if you push through, you actually see some success. And so you take that correlation and you bring it into to the business world, and you can say that, hey, if I continue, I might not know all the things I need to know, but if I continue to press forward, then I will actually find success. And there's so much that really correlates with sports and the business world.
And I think that message that you just shared, that is a key thing that I think a lot of student athletes need to hear. But yet it's coming across where it's scarce, where the message that you just said, Jermaine, right, I think could change the trajectory for a lot of student athletes, where the next question I want to ask you is, because that transition point is so hard, but the athletes knowing when you're in a junior, you're in a senior year, that you know that you've acquired a lot of these traits and skills. But why do you think the pain point in that transition is so difficult? And I speak to my personal journey, right? When you're transitioning out of your sport, I got injured my junior year. The writing's on the wall. From people, from mentors with maybe not a sports background, all they're telling me is you're going to be very successful because you have a non-quit attitude and you were a student athlete. That's it. But in that moment, I don't know where to put those skills towards, right? I don't necessarily have that dream job because I wanted to play sports forever, right? Just like every high-achieving athlete does. So that creates a very, very big pain point for a lot of athletes, where unfortunately you'll be in your senior year or even in some of their fifth years, right? Where, what do you want to do with your life? I have no idea. But they know that they bring a lot of skills to the table. But the pain point is still very, very prevalent in athletes. That's why I wanted to create these series. So the new segment that we have in the show is called DMs Open. So based on what I just told you, if there's one message, one DM, that across the NCAA you can send to these athletes going through these pain points right now, what would that message be, and why would you send it to them?
Yeah, it would be about proximity. So especially if you're in your junior and senior year, what I can tell you that is, I'll go back. Are you familiar with Brian Stevenson's Just Mercy?
Yes.
He tells an incredible story in that book about his grandmother and how she would essentially grip him. She would hold him. She would squeeze him every time she saw him. And that was even to her deathbed when she was passing away. She looked at him and she basically said to him, "Hey, can you feel me embracing you right now?" And he could reflect that. He could think about that squeeze that he always received from his grandmother. And the reason she did that, she told him, was that you can't get to understand anything until you get actually close to it, right? And it's about proximity in so many areas of life. A lot of us, as student athletes, we don't know what we don't like because we aren't getting close to it. And what I'm trying to share with student athletes all over the country is that if there's some small interest in anything, get close to it. Figure out how to get close to it, whether it's through conversations with someone or shadowing or an internship, whatever it is. Get close to it so you can understand a little bit more about it, because when you do, you have some insight that can help you to build on that and then help you with that transition as much as you can right now. And the thing is, it's not, when we say to consider other things, that's not betting against your athletic potential. It's betting on your entire self, right? It's truly, you have to think about like who you are holistically, not just as an athlete. And you've been taught a lot of times to just think about your accomplishments as an athlete. But
Correct.
you are so much more than that, and the capabilities are incredible, right? And so if you can apply a lot of those skill sets that you built as an athlete in your holistic self and get close to some of those things that might be slightly interesting to you, you'd be surprised the results that can come from that. So that's really my message through a lot of student athletes. It's just, hey, get close to something that's relatively interesting to you, and you can see incredible fruits from it. You familiar with Junior Bridgman?
No, I'm not. Not Junior
So Junior
Bridgman.
Bridgman, he just passed away not too long ago. He's he is the fourth richest NBA player that ever lived or ever existed, right? And you don't hear his name a lot, right?
Yeah.
He
Crazy.
played
Yeah, I
during
don't.
the era with Magic and so forth. And
Yeah.
what he did was really interesting. So he was an athlete, right? And he played 10 years in the league and did some incredible things as a kind of like a journeyman. But what he also did was he got close to anything that was interesting to him. On off seasons, what he would do, he would actually go work at the Wendy's. And so his teammates would actually make fun of him. They would laugh or they would question, like, why are you doing that? You're making all this money. You're an NBA player. Why are you going to work at the Wendy's? And the reason why he did that is because he wanted to one day own a franchise, right? So he went and he learned all the processes. And by the end of it, Junior Bridgman had almost 400 franchises throughout the country,
That's
and now he has
insane.
this incredible empire. He was a billionaire. He bought
Huh.
a minority stake in the Milwaukee Bucks not too long ago, right before he passed away. His children are doing incredible things. I think one is like a CEO for Ebony or one of those top
Hmm.
magazines, and the sons has now control and ownership of all those restaurants that were in his portfolio. But that all started with him just getting close to something that he was relatively interested in.
So, a key point of what you just said, which is beautiful, by the way, is curiosity. For an athlete perspective, what advice would you have to give them to stay curious? I think often as a student athlete, having that tunnel vision is encouraged. I'm sure he wasn't telling his coach on the
Right.
off season, "Hey, I'm working at
Right.
Wendy's." But he might have wanted to hear, "Hey, I'm doing this summer training. I'm staying into that tunnel vision," which brings athletes tons of success. But I think there is so much value in staying curious, right? So there's a little bit of a conflicting interest right now, especially at such an important time when you're a student
Yes, sir.
athlete. So how can that curiosity element be refined further and really be encouraged among current student athletes?
Yeah, I think one thing is really stepping outside of your comfort zone. You go to the same things or you do the same thing as a student athlete every single day.
Correct.
So don't be afraid to step outside of that routine. Connect with other students on campus. That's a really good opportunity to just to learn about what they're doing, why they're studying, what's interesting to them, and just figure it out. Ask questions. Really build relationships, and build relationships also with people. Even if you're not going outside of your regular routine, there's donors and folks that are super engaged with student athletes, especially today, and they have a wealth of knowledge in all these areas. And if you're looking at life and saying, one day I want to make sure that I'm successful after this sport has passed, right?
Hmm.
Look at some of these individuals and ask them questions. I tell the story again all the time about this expiring title of student athlete.
Yeah,
One day
it's gonna be
it's gonna
gone.
be gone, right?
Yeah.
Right now, if I go and I try to speak to a major funder, somebody that's really impressive and just hanging around the athletic department all the time, coming to our games, if me as a non-student go and I try to connect with that person, they might be cordial and say, hey, and so forth. But if a student athlete goes and says, I see that you do this, this, and this, just like you're doing, Ty, like, I see that you do
Hmm.
this, and this, and I would like to learn why or this specific thing. Can you tell me that? I'm a student, right? You would be
Yeah.
surprised the way that people bend over backwards in order to just help you get to that next level just because you're interested and you want to hear from them.
I love that. And I do feel like when you're curious, you definitely get a lot of yeses,
Absolutely.
right? There's one of my mentors, he does this exercise where it's called the no theory, where you have to go out and try and get as many
There you
no's
go.
as
Yep.
possible,
I
ask for
love that.
anything, right? And you'd be surprised about the amount of students that get yeses, where it's hard to
Yeah.
complete the assignment. All you need is 10 no's. They ask for the craziest things and they get so many yeses, especially when you step out of that
I
comfort
love that.
zone. And I think especially for student athletes watching, use the student card heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, lead with it, because people that are successful, what does that mean? They were once in your shoes, asking for mentors, right? Maybe not as proactive as you are now because they didn't get to listen to Live with Ty, right? So take this advice and really run with it. So Jermaine, thank you so much for sharing that. Another thing that's in your journey is that you're an author of a book. I always think writing a book is so hard. I don't know how people do it, but you've done it. Tell me about your inspiration for writing such a powerful book.
Oh man, I'm grateful. Thank you. Inspiration was one. It's a God thing. That is absolutely something that sort of came out of nowhere. Actually, a former student athlete who is an entrepreneur himself and was building and creating this incredible publishing company. Has been doing some incredible things, working with other individuals, much more accomplished and than myself. And he was working with them on their devotionals, and he really just reached out to me because we've journeyed together, worked through some hard things together, some hard conversations in life as we grew as husbands and as entrepreneurs, and he just asked me if I would pen a devotional. And so it took some prayer and some time, but also the confidence in someone like that to really think about me trying something like that out. And so it took a little bit. It was in there, and I was able to again, gratefully thankful for what God did with that. But it was a journey, and it's been incredible.
Well, it's amazing. I think, again, you're a living testament of stepping outside your comfort zone, right? You hadn't written a book before, but now you did it. Now you're a published author, which is
Crazy,
amazing. Yeah. And my next question, is there a part 2 coming out, man? Or no?
Oh man, yeah. I've been asked that. I don't know if there is. It's not on my calendar. But
okay, it might be on his, so you never know.
That's right. So we'll see.
Okay, well, and if you do, we'll hop back on and we'll give you some free promo.
Thank
you know.
Thank you.
Now, another thing that's also specific in your journey is that for this company that you're currently at, right? Every founder has a really good story around it, right? And I think the people that I've interviewed, the stories that you hear are amazing, and it all stem from a pain point where I like to call it the itch. You get an itch that just starts gnawing at you, and you feel like, man, you're looking around, no one else is doing it, so it's going to be on me. What was that pain point for you in your journey, and what was the cherry on top? It's like, okay, I'm getting this done.
Yeah. So a couple things. I'll speak about these two companies right now. The one that I spend the most time right is SGA, Skills Gap Advocate. And the reason why I started it was because of my entrepreneurial journey. You know, there are a number of resources out there for entrepreneurs, but there's less for, entrepreneurs of color and so forth. But also what I noticed was within a specific community, especially smaller communities, the resources were pretty fragmented. Everybody was operating in silos. And so for that entrepreneur that's trying to do something, they would start here, would get frustrated because they're not getting the support, and before you know it, they stopped, or they gave up their idea or transitioned to something else. And so my hope with SGA was really to create a company that would truly help entrepreneurs, especially those from non-traditional backgrounds that were trying to build incredible things. They had the resources were aligned and made sense for them so that they can actually grow their company. So that's the work that really triggered me. That's what my own personal entrepreneurial journey. With StudentAthlete.co, it was about me trying to replicate what took place for me while I was going to college, right? It was someone seeing in me the opportunity to go through college. And so, with student athletes, it's about mentorship. It's about helping student athletes transition properly into the workforce or into entrepreneurship and giving them the skill sets that they needed. And so that's why I started that company and seen incredible results of that.
Well, it's amazing, and it got you on here, and I'm so happy I get to tell your story. And especially with your first company, SGA, you definitely got to have a conversation with the SGA. Maybe you could get a sponsorship deal or something like that. That would be sick, honestly. And it would also align with the current business that you're trying to grow and build. So I think that's so awesome. The other thing that I want to ask from a startup journey is that it is filled with lots of ups and downs, right? So something I've been asking my guests recently, because it's such a key insight for the people watching, is what was a setback in your startup journey that ultimately thrust you forward?
Yeah. I think I didn't start off saying that I was going to create this company that supports entrepreneur support organizations. It was through the frustrations of not having the resources, right? So as an entrepreneur and running into roadblocks and not getting funding or applying for all these things and not getting any resources on my own. And so it was us deciding, hey, there's so many people that are having the same kind of issues, frustrations as I am going through. And so I felt like that, just pivoting to that hurt, that point of frustration on those things that I've personally gone through. I think this has been our most successful business because there are so many people out there that are trying to build businesses. There's so many organizations that are trying to help them, but they don't necessarily have the experience or the programs in order to support. And so really it was that frustration in itself as an entrepreneur going through that journey that helped me to create what I feel like has been the best business so far.
Amazing. I love that. And now switching lanes. So in your journey, I think partnerships are super, super important. Everything's about relationships. In your main partner, in your wife, you married a superstar, right? So how integral and how important has that support been in your entrepreneur journey?
And I think especially your spouse, that's the most important partnership that you choose in life, right? And it has been critical. Everything that we've gone through where we are right now has been because we've journeyed together and we've learned together and gone through some of these things. If it wasn't for my wife Sophia, we would not be here, right? Whether it's the support, and there are times where she's the primary breadwinner in helping to sustain things as I try to grow and get these dreams out of my head, right? Or times where she is supporting our household, keeping the kids upskilled and growing and nurturing them. And so we just have this incredible relationship that has really truly thrust the things that are happening right now into place, and it's been beautiful. So yeah, absolutely the most important relationship that we have for me is my spouse.
I love that. I love that. And now I want to test this theory, right? So something that a lot of men struggle with. There's this misconception. I don't know if it's a misconception. That's why I want to hear your thoughts. So let me not overspeak. Of where, especially when you're going the entrepreneur route, you've seen it in movies, you hear it in songs, where before they can open the possibility to having that integral partner, they're thinking, I just need to barrel down and just be alone and just grind. But now hearing your story, a partner could actually really elevate that. Is that true, or is there some validation into the theory of let's just grind, and when I'm at the top, then that's when I'll look for my partner or person?
Yeah, overall, I think that's just a mindset of just people in general, where you hesitate to start something, or you start something and you're doing it in your mind and you're thinking you have to get it all together. You don't speak to potential customers. You don't speak to anybody else because of several things, whether you think they're going to steal your idea or whether you think they're going to shut down your idea. And so you hold this in your mind, you finally get it out there and you start building in this silo. And before you know it, you can't build something successfully because one, you didn't talk to anybody, you didn't refine your idea and so forth. So overall, I just think it's in general what we do. We try to build it out so it makes more sense to people when we share it, because one, it's this journey of stepping out there. It's doing something that most people will probably say, well, it's crazy or it's not the stable thing to do. And so I think that's overall just a general thing that people do. There's so much when you actually express what you want to do, what you're trying to do. Your idea gets refined. You get to invite people into that storytelling and go along with the journey, and you go a lot faster and farther whenever you have somebody in it with you.
Okay, so I like that point. You took it on a journey. I love that. So now we're here to the fun part of the interview. I forgot to do this at the earlier start, but what we do on every episode, we do hot takes with Ty. The previous guest gives a hot take that you're going to react to. Last guest, he is the CEO of an AI company that was a former wrestler and boxer. He says, since the start of that big Netflix boxing event that everybody watched, boxing and wrestling is going to make a comeback in primetime television. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think overall people are just eager for content today, and the way that things are created or set up, I think there's just ways to bring more people into entertainment. And so yeah, I think it's going to make a comeback because people are looking for different types of content to support, and there's money behind it.
I love that. Okay, it's rare, but usually most people don't agree on the hot take, so we'll see if people are going to agree with yours. So it could be anything sports related. What is your craziest hot take for the next guest to have a reaction to?
I think I'll say this one, that I think most athletes would enjoy transitioning into Jiu-Jitsu if they have not done it before. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's unpack that a little bit more. Give the next guest a standing chance. I've never heard that one
No?
before. Yeah, tell me why.
Especially if you come from a more physical intensive sport, and maybe even not, but I just think jiu-jitsu, and it's been my experience, after you graduate, you're looking for something that kind of fills that bucket of your athletic like drive and what you want to do, and making sure that you can still sort of compete in a certain way, whether it's within your mind and getting that exertion and that competitiveness. And I think jiu-jitsu does that, but it also does it in a way where you're learning from almost like the bottom, right? You have to get humbled, you have to kind of go through this process, and it's also a mind game, right? You use your strength, or you try to like barrel people or whatever, and you're gonna learn that that's not what it's about. It's about technique. It's about listening to your body, listening to the other person's body, and seeing what is there. And I just think it's something that a lot of people would be interested in, but they just don't know about it.
Wow, I was not expecting that.
that was
That is, yeah, that's one of the craziest hot takes I've heard, but I'm here for it. Jermaine, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find you? Where can people connect with you? Shout yourself out and what you're building.
Yeah, thanks. You can look at us at Skills Gap Advocate, or skillsadvocate.com is our website, but you can also find me on LinkedIn. If I have anything to say, I'm usually saying it there.
Okay, awesome. Jermaine, I hope you enjoyed coming on the show. Thanks for telling your story, and thanks you for helping to inspire people like your younger self by recording this episode. Thank you so much for that, and then you take care, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks for having me.
All right, man, you take care. There you guys have it. What a beautiful conversation. I honestly think that was one of the most beautiful conversations I've had, just in the way that I'm able to relate to him. And also, the companies that he's building come from such a good place. I think a lot of people in business, sometimes they go after for the money grab. But the special thing about this community here is that there's an active problem or pain point that people are always trying to solve here, and that I get to tell those stories. Follow Jermaine on all platforms, get connected. If you've made it to this portion of the video, thank you so much. You're a real one. Make sure you pause that button, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the follow button, and share this episode with people that need to hear it. Once again, this was another episode of Live with Ty. I love making this content, and I'm gonna keep doing it for as long as I can. Take care. Peace.